G'day all, or good night all, or evening, whatever. Hef here from Epic Rides and Tours, yet again with one of my little videos about work that I've been doing on Swampy, our 2011 Ural Tourist. This time it's the ignition system. It comes in three parts. There's the hall sensor, which generates a signal to the CDI pack, which generates a signal to the coil pack, which sparks the sparkers. That happens twice per cycle. So on the ignition stroke for each cylinder, there's a spark, and on the exhaust stroke for each cylinder, there's a spark. It does actually make things a whole lot simpler. And yeah, let's have a look at what we've got. Okay, as I've already said, there are three major parts to the ignition system. We have number 5, that's the hall sensor. Number 6 is the CDI pack, capacitive discharge ignition for those who don't know. And part 7, which is the coil pack, it comes with the HT leads, high tension leads, to those who don't know. And that's what delivers the spark to the plugs. Yeah, and just so you can recognize them from their photographs, working from left to right of the slide, that's the hall sensor, the coil pack, and the CDI pack. And there we go. Okay, from left to right is the bike with its side cover panel on. And there's the side panel turned so you can see the interior of it. Now, we all do wash in those important little places, don't we? We clean up as we go. Yeah, right. And there's where the CDI pack sits. It's a pretty simple procedure. You pull the plug out from the right hand end, and you cut the, in this case, a couple of cable ties, and then you plug the new one in. You apply another couple of cable ties to make sure the CDI pack stays put where it should be, and that's that job done. Dead easy, hey? Right, to get the coil pack in place, it requires a wee bit of patience, sweat, copious quantities of cold drinks of your favourite variety. You actually have to get the seat off, and on mine I've got a bench seat. I'm pretty sure that this version also had the old tractor seat available, but this one is a bench seat. And just above my index finger there, it's almost impossible to photograph it, is a 17mm nut, which holds the front end of the bench seat in place. It is a bit of a pitter, but hey, you know, these things are sent to try us. Just be careful that you don't touch either of the terminals on the battery while you're doing it. It shouldn't actually be too hard. You'll find that there is enough room with a decent socket wrench and maybe a little extension. Okay, having undone the 17mm nut, you'll lift the front end of the seat to lift the bolt out of its little recess there, the little hole that it sits through, and then you can slide the bench seat forwards. On the left hand side, this photo and the middle photo, you'll see that there are a couple of little saddle like objects, and you look at the photo of the upturned seat there, you'll find that there are a couple of tabs that fit inside there and stop the pillion end of the seat from flapping up and hitting you in the back of the head. So yeah, lift up the front slightly to pull the bolt out of its hole and slide forward, and the whole seat should come out. And yes, I have cleaned this stuff as I've gone, just for those who think I might enjoy leaving my bike dirty for some reason. Right, this photo is not of a part of a motorcycle. I don't care what you say, it is not part of a motorcycle. It is in fact a computer glitch. The photo that is currently on display refused point blank, even when I took a second one, to rotate by 90 degrees. So I said, sod it, and I put the picture in as it is. Okie dokie, right in the middle, there's a bolt. It goes through a tab, which holds on the item at the bottom, which is the front end of the petrol tank. Right up the top is the left suspension leg for the front end of the bike. So these bolts, there's one on either side, 14 or 15 mil, I believe, if I can remember right. Take them both out, and then you can actually lift the tank up and slide it back a bit. Just be careful that you don't pull any of the attached fuel and vacuum hoses, and you can get away with just lifting the front end of the tank up to a point where you can balance it on the steering damper. That gives you enough room to access the coil pack, which is just two bolts to undo, and of course 2 bolts to attach. I didn't take any photos of these because the area that you've got to move about is just so crowded. I basically gave up trying to get a decent photo, but once you've done as I've described, you will see what I mean. And here we have yet another professionally produced photo of the upper front cover of the engine. It's held in place by 2 Allen bolts, and in case there's any confusion over when I say upper front, it's directly above the oil filter in this engine. Other engines are different, but on this engine you've got this sort of bulge at the front of the engine, and the upper part of it is the one that we're looking at. 2 Allen bolts to remove it, and that provides you with the next look. And this is the next look. It's a weird word to be using for this, but then apparently I'm a bit of a weird person myself. So this is another one of those photos that refuses point blank to be rotated through 90 degrees. So on the right hand side there is the hall sensor, and that needs to be taken out. There's a ring there. Yes, it does move, and it has 2 slots cut in it. Now those 2 slots allow the hall sensor to see a magnetic field. So the hall sensor itself actually has 2 parts. One part's a magnet, and the other one's a semiconductor. And when the semiconductor can see the magnetic field from the magnet, then it fires off a signal to the CDI pack, which fires off a signal to the coil pack, which sets a spark across the plugs. And basically how a Hall effect sensor works. Very simple arrangement, far better than the old contact breakers, or points as many people call them. Now if you'll notice the sheathed cable that goes up to the top of this part of the engine, the top being on the right hand side of this photo, which refuses to cooperate. Don't you love technology? There is actually a proper way to fit that cable, and I'll show you in the next slide, couple of slides. Okay, following that sheathed cable, you will find amongst the general spaghetti that's under the front end of the fuel tank, you'll find there's a connector. It's a clip in, so you lift a little tab on top of it or on the bottom, depending which way round it is, and separate the two halves. Then you can get into the next bit. And here we go. I had to use a little Tommy bar on a 1/4 inch drive to achieve this. But I'm sure plenty of other people will have different ways to do it. Um, the two bolts here, as seen in the centre picture, have little spring washers attached to them. Dead easy to lose. Just a heads up there. There's a saddle which goes across the top of the wires to the hall sensor, and a bracket which holds the hall sensor in place. That's all held together with those two little Allen screws. And there, when I removed the hall sensor from my bike, you shouldn't have much difficulty in seeing the pinch on that cable. Now, usually when a hall sensor goes, according to those who know more than I do, they are either good or they're bad. But if you've got cabling that's been scrunched up like that, you can have an intermittent problem very easily. So this is what I said earlier in the video, that I was going to show you that there's a right way and a wrong way of putting the hall sensor wiring back in. So just a point to note, first off, is make sure when you remove the old one from the bracket it's mounted on, make sure that you put the new one back in the same position. They can be fitted the wrong way round, and you shouldn't actually cause them any damage. But after fiddling for 5 minutes to try and get it to fit something it's not going to fit, you then realise that you really are a bit of a drongo and should have paid more attention. And why do I say this? Because, yeah, I'm a drongo. Well, the keen-eyed amongst you will notice that the talking head window has moved. Why? Because I can. But seriously, on the right-hand side here, we have a photo of the upper side of the hall sensor cover, or upper front engine cover that we talked about previously, the one that's held in place by two Allen bolts. That semicircular notch that you see is where the wiring loom to the hall sensor should go. Okay, it should come up through that semicircular notch. If it isn't, then your hall sensor wiring loom is going to look like the one I pulled off of Swampy. So make sure it's in place before you put the cover back in position. Lightly tighten the Allen bolts, double check that the wiring loom hasn't moved and isn't going to get pinched, and then you can tighten up the bolts. Reconnect it to the kink. I have no idea what I was going to say. Reconnect the connectors, and you should be right to go. Back again. The keen-eyed among you will have noticed the change in shape of the screen from round to a rectangle. You'll have also noticed that it's moved from the bottom left corner to the middle, and you might even notice that I'm not wearing my red braces anymore. That's because I'm not wearing my biker jeans. I'll leave the rest up to your imagination. No, seriously, I had to get the braces because every time I got on and off the bike, I was forever adjusting my flipping jeans. And especially in the hotter weather. I'm sure you'll appreciate it's a real bind. So yeah, I got the braces, and that means that anyone riding behind me or driving behind me doesn't get a view of the old biker's bum. Anyway, right. I hope you found that video interesting. I hope it helped out a couple of people. I must say I am not a mechanical genius or an expert at all. I just like putting these videos up because there are things here that I'm doing for the first time, at least to a Ural. I've done them many, many decades before. I always used to do all the work on my own car and my own bike. But that was a long, long time ago, and neither my car nor my bike were as quirky as Urals. So, yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something from it, or you know someone who can. Bye for now, and thanks for watching. Catch you next time.